Warning, truly disturbing horror. Man in the Fields, full horror story. They say the game is old, older than the land it haunts. It starts with a question, a stupid, childish thing whispered into the night. Do you want to play the Man in the Fields game? No one should ever say yes. 1. The Dare. Jason had laughed when his girlfriend pulled up the article on her phone. An old ritual game. Just a creepypasta. The group of 6 college kids were at Emma's family farmhouse for the weekend, drinking and daring each other. And horror stories fit the mood. Come on, Emma said, her cheeks flushed from wine. It says you just go outside at midnight, say the words, and walk back in. That's it. Then you've got to check every room in the house before midnight ends. If you don't, the Man in the Fields gets you. Jason finished, grinning. Sounds fun. They all agreed. It was stupid. It was just a story. At 11:59 p.m., Jason stepped out onto the porch. The fields stretched black and endless, the stalks whispering in the wind. He whispered the words, chuckling to himself. Then he heard it, far away, beyond the corn, the sound of someone dragging a scythe through dirt. 2. The game begins. When he returned inside, Emma had locked the door behind him. Everyone laughed nervously. But then the clock struck 12 a.m. A long, wet creak echoed from the fields. They fell silent. We just checked the rooms, right? Lauren asked, her voice trembling. That's all? So they did, room by room. Each time they entered one, Jason swore he heard it again, scrape, drag, scrape, closer. 3. The first room. The kitchen was fine. Nothing unusual. Except the back door had been unlocked. Jason swore he'd locked it earlier. He turned the bolt, heart hammering. The living room next. The curtains fluttered as if someone had just moved past them. But outside, only darkness. In the bathroom mirror, Emma swore she saw something, a tall figure, head bent, watching from behind her, but when she spun, the hallway was empty. 4. The Scythe. By 12:15, they were panicking. The rules said every room had to be checked before 1 a.m. If even one was missed, the Man in the Fields would find them. Lauren's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced down, frowning. Guys, this isn't funny. Who texted me a picture? It was blurry, but unmistakable, the 6 of them, huddled together in the hallway. And behind them, through the window, a shape in the field. A man, with a scythe. 5. The Descent. They ran from room to room. The house creaked with every step, shadows stretching wrong, as if the walls themselves were leaning in. In the attic, they found footprints in the dust, bare, long, and wet. In Emma's parents' bedroom, the wardrobe door swung open on its own. Inside, nothing, except the faint smell of rot. And always, the scrape, the dragging, the sound of metal on earth. 6. The last room. 12:57. They had checked every room, every single one, except the basement. No, Lauren whispered, shaking her head. Not there, please. But they had no choice. The basement door groaned as it opened. The air was damp, thick, and choking. They descended, their phone flashlights trembling. At the bottom, in the farthest corner, stood a scarecrow. It was wrong, too tall, shoulders hunched, head hanging. Its arms weren't straw but long, pale limbs ending in dark, dirt-caked nails, and in its hand, gleaming in the light, was a scythe. The figure raised its head. Its face was a burlap sack stitched into a crude smile. Inside the slits of the eyes, something gleamed wetly. The scythe lifted. 7. The end of the game. The farmhouse was found abandoned the next morning, doors wide open, windows shattered. The fields were silent, swaying in the breeze. Inside, the rooms were immaculate, beds made, chairs tucked neatly under tables, everything in its proper place. All except the basement. Down there, 6 scarecrows stood in a row, their heads covered in burlap sacks. Each one still twitched, faintly, as if struggling to escape. And if you pressed your ear to the basement door, you could hear it. Scrape, drag, scrape. The Man in the Fields, waiting for the next player. 8. Emma's journal. They found it 3 weeks later, when Emma's uncle came to clear out the house. It was hidden under the mattress in her old bedroom, pages torn and written in frantic scrawls. July 14th, it's real. God help us. It's real. We're trying to finish the game but it keeps changing. The house doesn't have this many rooms. Every time we think we're done, there's another door, another hall, another place we didn't check. July 14th. Later, Jason said he saw his mother in the mirror, but she died last year. She kept calling him to come outside. He almost opened the door. If he had, we'd all be dead. July 14th. Midnight, Lauren's gone. We didn't hear her scream, just turned around, and she wasn't there. There was a scarecrow by the kitchen window that wasn't there before. I think it was wearing her clothes. The last entry was smeared with what looked like dirt, or blood. He's in the house now. The rules never said he couldn't come in. 9. The neighbor's account. Across the field, an old farmer swore he saw the lights in the house flickering that night. He told police that he spotted someone standing in the corn rows, watching. I thought it was one of them kids, he said, voice shaking, but it was too tall, too thin, had its head bent like a scarecrow, and the scythe. Lord above, the scythe was glinting in the moonlight. He looked down at the ground while giving his statement. I didn't call for help, he admitted, because I knew the man in the fields had been called, and once he's called, there ain't no stopping him. 10. The investigator. Detective Hayes didn't believe in ghost stories. He had walked crime scenes far bloodier than this, but something about the farmhouse unsettled him. The basement especially. The 6 scarecrows stood in their row, unmoving. He inspected them one by one, noting the burlap sacks tied tight around their heads. When he touched one, the body beneath shifted, limbs rigid, jerking against unseen strings. The noise it made was worse than any scream, muffled sobbing. Hayes staggered back, bile rising. He swore he heard someone whisper in the dark corner of the basement. Another room. You forgot another room. When he shone his flashlight, nothing was there, only a trail of dirt leading to the wall, vanishing as though it had sunk into the earth itself. Would you like me to continue the story deeper into Detective Hayes's investigation, turning it into a layered horror mystery? Or should I shift back to the perspective of the trapped victims, still alive but bound in the scarecrow husks? 11. The missing room. Detective Hayes couldn't shake the voice. Another room. You forgot another room. That night, back at his motel, he dreamed of the farmhouse. Every hallway stretched longer than it should, every door leading to another door. Endless. Impossible. When he woke, he was standing in the motel bathroom, hand gripping the shower curtain like a weapon. On the mirror, traced in steam though he hadn't showered, were the words, "Basement is not the last room." 12. The return. Hayes went back. He had to. The farmhouse sat in silence. The air itself felt wrong, heavy, like it was waiting. He walked straight to the basement. The scarecrows hadn't moved, but the dirt trail he'd seen before was longer now, reaching farther into the wall. Something in him said push, so he did. The concrete gave way under his hands like damp soil, opening into a tunnel. The air that rushed out was foul, moldy, and sharp with the stink of rot. 13. The tunnel. Hayes descended with only his flashlight and gun. The tunnel sloped downward, the walls narrowing until he had to crouch, and then he heard it. Scrape, drag, scrape. He killed the beam of his light. Darkness pressed in like a suffocating blanket. The sound grew louder, closer, impossibly near, and then, silence. When Hayes turned the flashlight back on, the tunnel was empty, but behind him, fresh footprints pressed into the soil. Not his. 14. The forgotten. The tunnel ended in a chamber. Crude wooden crosses filled the space, each one holding a scarecrow. Some were fresh, skin still pale, lips trembling under the burlap sacks. Others were dried husks, long since rotted. But the eyes behind the cloth bulged wetly, following him. A chorus of muffled moans rose around him, the sound of 100 lost voices, trapped, begging. Hayes fell to his knees, gagging, and then he saw it. At the far end of the chamber, a door, old wood, black with mold, a rusty iron handle. Scratched across its surface were 4 words. The room you forgot. Do you want me to open that door with Hayes, escalating into cosmic horror territory? Or should I linger on the Scarecrow's perspective, the trapped victims still conscious inside their burlap prisons? 15. The room you forgot. Detective Hayes's hand shook as he reached for the handle. The iron was ice cold, burning against his skin. For a moment, he swore he felt fingers wrap around his own, guiding him, urging him to turn it. The door groaned open. Inside was not another chamber, not a basement, not even Earth. It was a room, his room. His childhood bedroom. The faded wallpaper, the cracked toy soldiers, the bedspread his mother sewed. Everything was exactly as he remembered it, except for the thing sitting on the bed. It wore his face. 16. The double. Hello, Hayes. The voice was wet, muffled, like it came through a sack of soil. The double tilted its head, smiling with teeth too long. You forgot this room. You always forget. That's how he finds you. Hayes raised his gun, but the double only laughed. Its laugh wasn't just in his ears, it was in the soil, the air, the marrow of his bones. The man in the fields doesn't need to chase you. You bring him here. Every door you open, opens him. Behind the double, the wallpaper began to sag, bulging like something pressed against it from the other side. The shape of a tall man, head bent, shoulders wide, dragging something sharp across the floor. Scrape, drag, scrape. 17. The choice. Hayes backed away. His light flickered. Around him, the walls of his childhood room pulsed like living flesh. The door behind him had vanished. You've got one choice, the double said, rising to its feet. Stay here, in this room forever. Or, its grin split wider, or wear the sack, and join the rest. The floorboards split, revealing the chamber of scarecrows beneath. Dozens of burlap-covered heads tilted upward in unison, arms twitching in silent pleas. Hayes screamed, firing his gun. The flash lit the room for half a heartbeat, long enough to see the figure in the wallpaper step through, scythe glinting. Would you like me to continue Hayes's fate directly, whether he joins the scarecrows or escapes? Or should I shift to a future perspective, perhaps years later, when new victims stumble into the farmhouse and uncover his journal? 18. Hayes's fate. The bullet never struck his double. It simply dissolved into the dark. The sound swallowed whole. The wallpaper tore open like wet paper. The man in the fields stepped through. Hayes had seen corpses before, bloated bodies, dried husks, bloodied wrecks of men. But this was worse. The man's head sagged beneath the burlap sack, stitched into a smile. His limbs were impossibly long, skin gray and soil-stained. The scythe scraped the floor, carving grooves into the wood as he advanced. Hayes dropped the gun. His breath came in broken sobs. No, he whispered. I didn't forget. I didn't. The man tilted his head. And then Hayes felt it, the sack tightening over his face. Though nothing touched him, his arms jerked to his sides, his spine snapping upright like a puppet on strings. He clawed at the invisible fabric smothering him, but his fingers sank into rough burlap that wasn't there. The last thing he saw was his double watching with hollow delight, whispering, "Now you'll never forget a room again." 19. Years later. The farmhouse was sold. Cheap. No one wanted it. But the land was good. The fields fertile. A new family moved in, a couple with 2 young children. They never found the tunnel in the basement, though sometimes they swore they heard scratching beneath the floor at night. The children played in the fields. Once, the daughter came back with a story. "There's a man out there," she said. "He was waving. He asked if I wanted to play a game." Her mother laughed nervously. "What game, sweetie?" The girl tilted her head, voice dropping to a whisper she couldn't have known. "Do you want to play the man in the fields game? Do you want me to expand into the new family's story, a full new cycle of horror, or keep the ending here, an eternal loop that leaves the reader with dread?" 20. The new family. At first, the parents thought it was just imagination. Children see things, invent games. But the little girl grew quieter as the days passed. She stopped sleeping through the night. Every morning, her mother found dirt on the sheets, not a little, clumps of soil, as if she'd been burying her face in the ground while dreaming. The father dismissed it. "She's sleepwalking." But one night, he followed her. At 12:03 a.m. He woke to the creak of floorboards. His daughter padded barefoot down the hall, her small hands clutching the doorknob to the basement. The door, which they never used, was already unlocked. When she opened it, the father nearly called out until he saw the glow. A faint, sickly lantern light seeped from below. And from that light came the sound. Scrape, drag, scrape. 21. The daughter speaks. The next morning, the father confronted her. Who told you to go down there? The girl blinked at him with tired eyes. The scarecrow, she whispered. He says I forgot a room. Her mother grabbed her shoulders. What room, honey? What do you mean? The child's lips trembled. She leaned close, so quiet they almost didn't hear. Your room. That night, they locked every door, every window. They kept the children in their bedroom and sat awake in the living room with the lights on. At 12:17, the lights flickered out. The scraping began again, closer. This time, coming from inside the house. 22. The mother's discovery. In the dark, the mother lit a candle. Shadows twisted against the walls. She crept through the hallway, calling for her children. But the hall was longer than it had ever been. Doors lined both sides. Doors that should not exist. Each one bore her name, scrawled into the wood. When she opened the nearest door, she gasped. Inside was her childhood bedroom, down to the pink quilt and cracked porcelain dolls. On the bed sat a figure with her face, whispering, "You forgot this room." Behind her, the dragging grew louder. Scrape, drag, scrape. Do you want me to finish the new family cycle with a brutal ending, or would you prefer I stretch it further, letting them struggle against the man in the fields in a slow spiral toward doom? 23. The spiral. The mother slammed the door shut, but the whisper didn't stop. It crawled along the walls, overlapping in dozens of voices, all with her own tone. You forgot this room, you forgot this room. She ran back toward the children's bedroom. The hallway stretched longer with every step, the floor sagging as though she were sprinting across soft earth instead of wood. When she burst through the door, she froze. Both children were sitting upright in bed, faces hidden beneath burlap sacks tied tight with twine. Their little arms jerked and twitched as if pulled by strings. The father stood beside them. His face was pale, his eyes glassy. He turned slowly toward her and whispered in a voice not his own. He's here. Scrape, drag, scrape. 24. The father's choice. The side's rasp echoed closer. Now inside the walls, the boards groaned. The lamp on the dresser flickered, casting the father's face in sharp shadows. I saw him, the father said. His lips trembled, but his voice was flat. He showed me my room. I thought I could shut the door. I thought if I locked it, he wouldn't come through. Tears spilled down his cheeks. But there's always another room, always another door. The children shifted on the bed, the burlap over their heads damp with muffled sobs. The scraping stopped. Silence swallowed the house. The father looked at his wife, then at the door. And slowly, he reached for the knob. 25. The last room. The door swung open. Behind it was not a hallway, not the rest of the house, just black soil, stretching forever, and in the center, the man in the fields. His head sagged forward, burlap sack grinning wide. The scythe gleamed in the candlelight as he raised it, pointing straight at the mother. The children's muffled cries rose to screams. The father collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. The mother took one step back, straight into the arms of another version of herself, waiting behind her. It leaned close, whispering in her ear. This is the room you forgot. The door slammed shut. Do you want me to push to the final ending, showing what becomes of the family, or leave it unresolved, a cliffhanger that keeps the dread gnawing? 26. The family's fate. When the neighbors came the next morning, the farmhouse was silent. The doors were unlocked, curtains swaying in a breeze that didn't exist. The family was gone. But the fields weren't empty. Out beyond the rows of corn, 6 scarecrows now stood where before there had been none, 3 tall, 3 small. Their heads sagged beneath burlap sacks, their arms bent at unnatural angles. If you looked long enough, you might swear the sacks moved, twitching with the shapes of mouths screaming inside. The neighbors tried not to notice. They told themselves the new owners must have set them up overnight. They told themselves it was nothing. But no one went near the farmhouse again. 27. The warning. Weeks later, the house sold again, this time to a developer who planned to bulldoze it. He sent in a crew to clear it out first. The workers didn't last an hour. When they ran out pale-faced, one dropped something he'd found inside, a notebook, stained with dirt, the cover marked only with a name. Detective Hayes. The final page was fresh, the ink wet as if written that very morning. Do not play the game. Do not answer when he asks. Do not open the doors you don't remember, because there is always one more room, always. And beneath it, in a jagged, unfamiliar scrawl, do you want to play the man in the fields game? Warning, end of story. Would you like me to now weave all parts into one continuous, polished novella-style horror story, so it reads seamlessly from start to finish, or keep it as this serialized creepypasta format with cliffhanger next segments? 28. The bulldozers. The developer returned with heavy machines. He wasn't superstitious. The men who had quit, the scarecrows, the notebook, it was all country nonsense to him. At dawn, the bulldozers lined up, engines growling. The operator of the lead machine pushed forward, steel blade aimed straight at the farmhouse. The moment it touched the outer wall, every engine died. Not sputtered, not stalled, died. Total silence. Then came the sound. Scrape, drag, scrape. The workers fled, but the developer stayed. Furious, he stormed inside, determined to prove there was nothing. His shouts echoed across the empty fields. No one saw him come back out. 29. The silent house. The farmhouse still stands. No matter who tries to tear it down, no matter what equipment they bring, something always fails. Fires refuse to burn it. Blades snap against its walls. But inside, the rooms change. Some days there are 7, some days there are 12, always shifting, always waiting for the next person to forget. At night, travelers on the road swear they hear children crying. Some say they see a lantern light drifting through the fields, weaving between the rows. If they look too long, the figure holding it lifts a scythe, head sagging beneath a grinning sack. 30. The legend grows. Now the locals won't even speak of it. They tell their children only one rule, passed down like scripture. Never answer if someone asks if you want to play the man in the fields game. Because once you say yes, the game begins. And once the game begins, you always forget a room. Always. Would you like me to end the tale here as a completed full-cycle horror legend? Or push it even further, showing a new outsider, maybe an urban explorer or paranormal team, investigating the farmhouse for the internet, unknowingly restarting the nightmare? 31. The Explorers. They came with cameras, 3 young men, 1 woman, all wearing headlamps and GoPros strapped to their chests. The YouTube channel was called Phantom Seekers, and their views had been dying off. They needed something big, something real, and the farmhouse, oh, the comments had begged for it. Locals say it's cursed. One of them laughed on camera as they pulled up the overgrown drive. We're going to prove it's just a house. The woman, Kayla, didn't laugh. She kept looking at the fields. They're watching us, she whispered, though no one else heard. 32. The Challenge. Inside, dust floated in thick beams of moonlight. The house smelled of damp wood and iron. Doors lined the hallway, too many doors. This place is a maze, one of the men muttered, shining his light. Bet the floor plan's been redone 100 times. Kayla swallowed hard. Her mic picked it up. Do you want to play the man in the fields game? She hadn't meant to say it. The words just slipped out, like they'd been waiting behind her teeth. The others froze. Then the cameras caught it, clear as day. From outside, through the cracked windows, came the reply. Scrape, drag, scrape. 33. The footage. The video never uploaded. But weeks later, a clip surfaced online, shaky and corrupted, as if recorded on a dying battery. It showed the 4 explorers in the hallway, eyes wide, lights trembling. Behind them, through an open doorway, stood a scarecrow, taller than any man, its head bowed, its scythe glinting. The camera jolted, the audio filled with static. Then a voice, dozens of voices layered together, whispering the same words in different tones. Another room. You forgot another room. The clip ended there. No one ever saw the Phantom Seekers again. Do you want me to escalate the story into modern-day viral horror, the farmhouse becoming infamous online, spreading the curse wider, or keep it confined to the farmhouse itself, an isolated legend, a trap waiting for whoever dares enter? 34. Viral horror. The clip spread like wildfire. Reddit threads, TikTok stitches, YouTube reaction videos. Millions watched the blurry hallway and the towering scarecrow figure in the background. Most called it fake, special effects. Some even tried to analyze the pixels. But a few whispered that the static at the end wasn't random. When slowed down, layered, and reversed, the voices were clear. Say yes, say yes, say yes. And people did. All over the world. In bedrooms lit by glowing monitors. In basements where whispers carried through pipes. In empty apartments at 3 a.m., someone would mutter it into the dark. Do you want to play the man in the fields game? 35. The spread. The rules never changed. Midnight. The rooms. The scythe. But apartments began growing extra doors. Motel rooms stretched into endless corridors. A dormitory in Tokyo collapsed when half its residents vanished overnight, leaving behind rows of sack-headed figures in the courtyard. The farmhouse wasn't the only doorway anymore. The game had gone global. And always, no matter how far, no matter the country, once you said yes. Scrape, drag, scrape. The sound came for you. 36. The final broadcast. One last live stream went up before the authorities banned Man in the Fields videos outright. A streamer whispered the words as a joke. His chat exploded with laughing emotes until his camera jolted. Behind him, a new door had appeared in the wall, plain and wooden. The handle began to turn. The stream cut to black. But his microphone kept recording for 12 more minutes. Just the sound, again and again. Scrape, drag, scrape. Would you like me to push this into full apocalyptic horror, humanity collapsing under the spread of the game? Or end it here as a modern curse creepypasta, open-ended and viral, leaving the reader afraid to whisper the words themselves? 37. The First City Falls. It began in whispers. Online at first, claims that half a high-rise in Sao Paulo had disappeared overnight. The building still stood, but entire apartments were empty, their doors sealed shut with burlap nailed across the frames. The families inside were never found. The police tore the barriers down, but the rooms behind them weren't right, beds facing the wrong way, hallways bending too far, closets that opened into soil. And always, from somewhere deeper in the dark. Scrape, drag, scrape. 38. Contagion. It spread like infection. Anyone who saw the farmhouse clip, or heard someone describe it, risked repeating the words. Some by accident, some dared each other, some whispered them in sleep. The world governments tried to censor it, but suppression only fueled the fire. Copies of the cursed video multiplied faster than they could be erased. In New York, subway stations became mazes of shifting doors. In London, entire hotels emptied in a single night, leaving rows of scarecrows propped at the windows. In Karachi, the scrape of the scythe echoed through power outages, dragging through the streets. 39. The Fall. At first, people thought survival was possible. Don't play the game. Don't say yes. Simple. But the man in the fields was patient. You didn't need to invite him anymore. He came when you forgot to lock a door, forgot to close a window, forgot a room in your own house, and when you turned back, there it was, a door that hadn't been there before, standing open. The last thing anyone heard before the screams was the endless, world-spanning chorus. You forgot a room. 40. The last broadcast. A ham radio station, somewhere in the ruins, sent out a repeating signal. If you hear this, stay away from mirrors, from doors, from empty fields. Stay awake. Don't forget your rooms. The world isn't safe. Not anymore. The transmission ended with a scrape of metal, dragging across soil. Silence. Then a voice flared, infinite, stitched into the static. Do you want to play the man in the fields game? Warning: end of humanity's cycle. Do you want me to push beyond this, showing what the world looks like after the game consumes everyone? Or keep the ending here, leaving it as a final apocalyptic note? 41. After the game. The world is quiet now. Cities stand like shells, hollow and abandoned, their windows watching with blank, glassy eyes. There are no screams anymore, only the wind moving through empty streets, rattling the doors that no one dares to open. But the fields are full. Where there were once skyscrapers and highways, there are scarecrows, endless rows of them. Some are small, some bent, some tall and rigid. Burlap sacks sag where faces should be. If you walk too close, you can hear them whispering beneath the cloth, soft, muffled sobs. Every one of them still alive, still remembering the rooms they forgot. 42. The endless harvest. The man in the fields walks among them, dragging his scythe across the soil that used to be asphalt. His head bows beneath the eternal sack, stitched grin wide. He never hurries. He doesn't need to. There's no one left to run. Some say the earth itself has become his game board. Mountains hide doors where none should be. Oceans ripple with submerged hallways. The stars overhead are just windows, waiting for someone to look too long and open them. The harvest never ends. 43. The last witness. And yet, someone still remains. Somewhere, a voice continues to write, to record, to warn, scratching words into ruined paper, into walls, into the dirt itself. Do not play the game. Do not say yes. There will always be another room. But the man is patient. The last witness will forget, too. 44. The final room. When the last word is written, when the last light fades, when silence covers everything, the earth itself will creak open like a door. And on the other side, something waits. Not a man, not a scarecrow, not a shape at all. Only the dark. Only the scythe, dragging forever. Scrape, drag, scrape. Warning: the end. Would you like me to now stitch everything from beginning to end into a single, polished, novel-length horror story, so it reads seamlessly without the next breaks, or keep it in this serial, episodic style where each part builds dread step by step? 45. What remains? Time no longer feels like years, or centuries. The world has rotted into stillness. Crops wither, animals lie silent, oceans choke with silence, yet the fields remain green, eternal, fed by something deeper than soil. The scarecrows never fall, their bodies never decay. They twitch sometimes, faintly, as if remembering. Some say that if you stand very close, you can hear their hearts still beating, slow and muffled under burlap and twine. The man in the fields walks the rows, dragging his blade in patient arcs. Not harvesting, just reminding. The scrape is a clock that never stops. 46. The visitors. One day, something else comes. Not human, there are no humans left, but other beings, from far away, drifting across the dark between stars. Explorers, curious. They see the planet below, green and quiet, and they descend, expecting ruins. What they find is the endless farmland, the neat rows, the scarecrows standing like sentinels across the continents. At first, they don't understand. They think it's agriculture, a strange preservation ritual of a dead race. Then they hear it. Scrape, drag, scrape. 47. The first question. In their recordings, recovered long after, the explorers can be heard debating what they're seeing. One voice, uncertain, asks, "Could it be a game?" And something answers. Not through their radios, not through the air. Through the soil, the stone, the marrow of their bodies. Do you want to play the man in the fields game? Do you want me to follow the alien explorer's descent into the game, showing how even other species can be consumed, or end here, leaving it cosmic, humanity gone, and the curse spreading to whatever comes next?